You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. I'm Bill McIntyre here with Jon Gallo, bringing you news stories about Long Island and about Long Islanders. Our special guest, County Executive Laura Curran. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
Oh, okay.
We're good.
Okay.
Always good to hear from you, of course. Thanks for joining us as always. Hope you're having a good close to your week here. And we wanted to start by getting an update, obviously, on both the vaccine program and the reopening status. We know there have been some updates recently in the news. So if you can just maybe get our listeners and Long Islanders up to speed on how that impacts, I guess, the near future.
Sure. So our vaccine program is going gangbusters. We have about 73% of adults, eligible people. About 73% of them have had at least one dose. And,
Great.
The President Biden, a couple of days ago, said he wants 70% by July 4th. And I didn't want to break the news, but we already reached that goal last week. So we have a great Department of Health. It's run by, the wonderful Dr. Larry Eisenstein. We have good hospital networks. Yep. And more importantly, we have residents who are willing to get the vaccine. So it makes it a pleasure. Another statistic, which I found quite interesting, is 83% of our seniors over 65 are vaccinated now. 83%. So yesterday we're turning, now that I think we've done a great job with seniors. Now we're turning our focus to younger people, to high school students. And I was actually at the community college yesterday with Dr. Jermaine Williams and Northwell, announcing our program to get more teens 16 and over vaccinated. So we're going to be doing 4 days at the college. We're aiming to get 500 a day done. We have a program where we have, it's one thing for me or us to tell people, young people, to get it, but we have student ambassadors, they're going to be trained by Dr. Larry about the frequently asked questions, what the process is, the science behind it. And they're going to go to their schools and talk to their peers about it. And they get community service credit out of it. And if you get your vaccine there, if you just get the vaccine, you're going to get 6 hours of community service. Wow. Because that's all, it is community service. You are serving the community by protecting people and helping businesses and schools and camps and everything recover. But during the pandemic, it's been hard for high school students to fulfill that community service commitment. A lot of this stuff just hasn't been happening if you're doing soup kitchens or whatever it may be. So, and this is something we asked the kids what they wanted. I was thinking maybe they were going to say Dunkin' Donuts gift cards or something like that, but they actually wanted this. So I was like, okay, that sounds good to me.
That's great.
A little more.
It was a good way to get kids to the college as well. They're high school kids, are thinking about college. I didn't realize this, but 1 in 5 Nassau high school graduates go to Nassau Community College.
Oh yeah,
That's good.
Stepping stone to the future. That's great to hear. And I know we've heard of some things like out in Suffolk County with a beer for a shot, and I think it's
I love that.
Obviously,
New Jersey just jumped on the bandwagon.
They're not eligible for that, the young folks, but it's great to hear that they're civic minded and like you said, they want those community service hours, helping their degree, I guess, and kind of graduation status. So that's a beautiful thing to hear. And I know, like you said, the seniors, that was the most, important part of the equation, kind of initially, but still, like you said, filling those gaps in the way to herd mentality, as we talked about with the health commissioner, Larry, Dr. Larry, certainly is now where we're at. And glad to see that people are getting creative, we'll say, to try to fill that void. So that's great. And we are, I know, again, pre-Thanksgiving levels, right, is where I believe where we're at. And everyone now is eligible, 18 and up, to get the vaccine. That's a change since we last spoke, correct?
And if it's Pfizer, it's 16 and up.
Oh, yes, true. That's a good point. Yep.
And the other thing we have to make clear. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I just want to make clear that it's a walk-in thing. People don't have to make appointments anymore. They don't have to wrestle with their computer. They don't have to ask anybody when CVS is available or when this, and none of that. You can just walk in and get a shot.
That's right. There's walk-in available at our county-run sites. Go to our website before you just walk in, because we're reserving some days for second doses only. So we can't walk in there. But we're doing appointments in the evenings now. We want to make it as easy as possible for those who haven't gotten it yet. And then we're at the point now where we have more appointments than we can give out. It changed like in a day.
Right.
So just check our website. But walk-ins is a game changer, I think. I hope. We'll see. We've had a few hundred so far.
Exactly. Trying to make it as easy as possible for everyone who's still a little bit on that fence. And like I said, maybe it takes a free beer or community service hours, or in the case of the Mets and Yankees, some free tickets. So that's another incentive for our big sports fans. Maybe we can get the Islanders. I don't know about for the playoff run, but I'm sure some folks.
That's great.
Yep, right. Be convinced.
I have this dream. You know how the governor yesterday announced that Broadway's going to open in September?
Yep.
Tickets are big. I have this dream that we can get to 100% at the Coliseum for the playoffs. What do you think? What do you think the chances are?
That'd be beautiful. We're all in favor for that.
Everyone has to be vaccinated.
Yep.
And if we can get to 100%, this is the last season. It's the last season that they're playing before they go to Belmont.
Exactly.
I think they'll play better the more fans they have.
Yeah. There's your motivation right there. Let's help support our favorite local team here. And
there you go. You can certainly get to the Islander fans and get them to get vaccinated.
That's a big
percentage.
Hey,
if you want to show up at the game.
There you go. And one thing, though, that we did, because, some people, we have heard a lot recently from folks, which is one of these stumbling blocks of maybe the hesitancy issue, is that they thought that, they got COVID, and they didn't really understand maybe that there's so many other strains. Do you think that things like this will maybe make a difference for those types of people?
I think it will. And also, if you got COVID, a lot of people have had COVID and then got it again. So it's not, you're immune for a period of time. They think about 3 months. There will be some people, like with other vaccines, that will never want it. That's just going to happen. And that's why I never say you must get it and you're an idiot if you don't get it. Because people might have their own personal reasons why they don't want it. And I respect that. But I want to make sure that they have the facts and that they have medical, real medical advice, not just something that they read on the internet.
Of course.
Right now. So we've been doing town halls, virtual town halls we did it in Spanish. We did one in the African American community, Chinese, Asian communities, South Asian communities, with doctors and medical professionals from those communities on those town halls talking about it, answering their questions. And, we find that kind of outreach, really specific outreach, has been helpful. And I think that's another big part of the reason why we've had so many of our residents here and why we're really leading the state in terms of vaccination rate. Because you have to respect people. You kind of have to meet them where they are. And if at the end of the day they don't want one, they don't want one. Maybe you can't go to the game or something like that, but you should be able to make that choice for yourself. But I am encouraging people to get it. I'm not shy about that.
Of course.
I just want to make sure you have the information to make an informed decision.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. Still having that self-determination aspect and people coming to it, after they've gotten what they need. And certainly there's plenty of good information about all the upsides and benefits of, doing it for themselves, their families, and the larger community of Long Island. So that's great.
There's also been millions of people that have gotten the vaccine and have not had an issue with it. And yet, I think the governor...
Actually, today is the first day I am fully immune. It's 2 weeks after my dose.
Congrats.
Yes, it's really exciting. And I did 24 hours later, I did get those flu-like symptoms.
Yeah, if you get a little bit tired sometimes, you get some minor things, but, for again, protection from the other much worse things, it's certainly a very, very mild, kind of price to pay.
Well, the governor said that yesterday or the day before that 31 people had still died in New York from getting the coronavirus.
Exactly.
So it's still a real thing. But the obvious evidence is, again, millions of people have gotten it and have not had a problem.
Right.
So that kind of thing should be shifting as far as. Because you hear it all. The kids
It's so rare.
Kids are waiting for the kids are waiting for their superpower. That's what they, the young people are saying. I wait 2 weeks and I get my superpower. So
I like that.
Yeah,
the other thing I like about our student vaccination program is the timing is great because they'll get it in mid-May. Then they'll get the second one in mid-June. And so by the end of the June for graduations and proms and all of that, they'll be immune. Then they can go do their summer jobs. They can go to summer camp. A lot of the camps are requiring vaccination. Most of the colleges that I'm hearing about are requiring vaccination. And it's, they talk about let's believe the science. Well, I believe the science of the vaccine, and it's the way to get back to normal.
Exactly. And like you said, more and more data is coming out showing that it's as safe as we thought it is, which is great and reassuring to those, like I said, who are still, for whatever reason, unsure. But let's maybe shift to, related to the COVID crisis. We're glad to see that things are obviously getting much better now here locally. But I know that globally, there's still a problem, and specifically in India at the moment.
Yeah.
And I know that you recently had a press conference with State Senator Kevin Thomas, one of the few Asian members of the state Senate delegation, the first Indian American state senator in that delegation. So can you talk about, why you think it's so important, especially knowing how big of an Indian population we have here, to support folks globally during this crisis?
Yeah, it was great. This was an idea that Senator Thomas had to do a dome lighting and invite our Indian community and other community groups just to raise attention. We're all seeing it on TV. We're all reading about it in the paper, and people want to help. So we wanted to get the information out there about where they could send their donations, where they could send help. And we're seeing this crisis unfold in India. We were the epicenter here, and we had it bad. But they don't have basic supplies. They're missing out. They don't have enough oxygen. So people are dying in their homes. They don't have enough PPE. And you think about India, which produces these things, and it was a big part of how the vaccine got produced. The fact that the people are lacking so much is just so sad. And speaking to people at the event that we had, and almost every single one of them still has family there. They're calling every day. They're on the WhatsApp chats trying to figure out, how their family members are doing. It's devastating. And the numbers that we're seeing, I think it hit the 20 million mark. Everyone I'm speaking to saying there's much more that just goes unreported. And rural areas, they're not being counted. So I was happy to do our little part just to raise more awareness and get out all of the information on how and where you could donate. And it's also a reminder, how lucky we are here and what progress we've made.
Yeah.
The fact that we have all these people vaccinated, the fact that we understand how to treat it, the fact that we were right up against it in terms of ventilators and all of that, but we had just enough. We had the right amount in the end. We had enough oxygen to get through the worst of the worst time. And unfortunately, in India, that is not the case.
Yeah, and definitely, like I said, it evokes those terrible images we saw, last year in March and April. It wasn't maybe as terrible in terms of some elements, but still, for anyone who was on the front lines, talking about whether it's those refrigerated trucks or just people kind of stacked up in hallways because there just wasn't enough beds or equipment. Certainly, we know that things aren't always guaranteed, and we want to make sure, like you said, that we support others during those tough times, because we did get, thankfully, support, from all over the world and from the country during our tough time here in Long Island and in New York. And the other thing is, too, that it's a global pandemic. So, if we don't help others, and I know Dr. Fauci always talked about this globally. I know there's discussion about the vaccine being distributed, access that maybe we have here, that it could come back around. It can come back to New York, and those variants could spread. And if that's the only motivation alone, that's a good reason to support folks going through those tough times. So, just want to remind listeners, they are listening to this week's Long Island News here with Bill McIntyre, myself, Jon Gallo, and still just for the last few minutes here with County Executive Laura Curran, who we are happy again to have joined us today. So I think just to close, County Executive, I know it's probably a longer conversation that we'll have with you another time, but in terms of some reporting recently, we saw that Nassau Community College, along with Suffolk Community College, enrollment seemed to have been down since the pandemic. And, it's obviously a concerning trend for us personally, but what do you think about that? And, what do you think the county can do to again, further promote, these gems, these institutions, that, like you said, one out of maybe 6 Long Islanders might step through one way or the other already?
Yeah, so I read that news. It was very discouraging to read. I know that the community college that have had decreasing enrollment for years previous, for about 10 years or so. And I think the pandemic has exacerbated that now. And I know that, there's a wonderful staff, wonderful teachers, and Dr. Williams is working really hard to market and to get the word out about what a gem this is, what a bargain it is. And, you really get a lot for your money in terms of education, and anything we can do to encourage people to go, people to enroll, we actually did a program where we had some extra federal money, and we set it aside, gave it to the college to do scholarships for healthcare careers, for healthcare certificates and training. So we're looking to do more of that now, some similar kinds of scholarships to encourage people to, it's right in the heart of our county, and people could really take advantage of it. I think something that will help is the fact that we are about to cut the ribbon on a brand new police academy right on the grounds of the college. And we want to have a real synergy with the criminal justice program, with the students there. And that might encourage more people to enroll as well. There's so, if you're doing liberal arts, or if you want a certificate, or if it's training for a certain vocation, the community college is a great place to do it. And so we want to support. And I'm really looking forward to more collaboration, especially through the police academy.
Yeah, that's great. I think Nassau Community College is one of the best kept secrets on Long Island.
It is.
And adult education is a big thing too. Anybody in the neighborhood, out on Long Island that wants to just go and learn something. Yeah. Commissioner Ryder teaches at the college. I actually gave a course at the college about voiceover commercials. And we had it was a great time. We really had so there are a lot of things there that people should look at. Whether you're a high school student going to college, or, a mom at home and you have a night you can go, and it's just it's a really good outlet. It really is. That's
great. I know. I would love to go back and take a class, like a literature class or a philosophy class, stuff I used to do in college that I just don't get to do anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't realize how much you miss it until, the time passes. But
of course, I didn't appreciate it at the time.
Exactly. That's usually the case. But certainly, it's great. I know, like Bill, I went back and, finished my degree in the 4-year, in my mid-20s, and Nassau was a big part of it. And I remember being in those honor classes and seeing, I had a fellow student who was 92 years old in the honor psych class, and just seeing how everyone, just appreciated their passion for the information. It just kind of resonated, and I think everyone else kind of fed off of it rather. So it was certainly a great thing to see, and it's a great experience that, of course, we will always try to plug and promote. So thank you as always, County Executive Curran, for your support for the college, and obviously for everything in the county. And as always, we thank you for your time, and look forward to carrying the conversation.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Looking forward to the next time.
Most definitely. So take care. Thanks for joining us.
All right,
see
guys.
You soon.
Bye.
All right. Well, now we're very happy to be joined by Long Island Congressman Tom Suozzi. Representative Suozzi, he represents New York's 3rd Congressional District, which consists of portions of both Long Island and Queens. He's a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, serves on both the Oversight and Tax Policy subcommittees. Congressman Suozzi is also the vice chair of the Bipartisan Problem Solvers Caucus and co-chair of the Bipartisan Long Island Sound Caucus. Congressman Suozzi also previously served as mayor of his hometown, Glen Cove, and as Nassau County Executive from 2002 to 2009. Thank you very much for being with us today, Congressman. We really appreciate your time.
Hey, Bill, I'm happy to be on with you and John. Thanks so much for including me. They left out, I'm also the co-chair and a founder of the Labor Caucus. And I'm also in a group I was appointed by the Speaker to look at human rights violations in China. It's called the Congressional Executive Commission on China. So I've got a really great job. It's very interesting. It's a great honor. It's a real pain in the neck sometimes, but it's a great honor.
You have a full plate. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. So that's an important thing to point out, because those are definitely important issues that do impact Long Islanders as well. And we did just want to start off the bat like we do with a lot of our guests that we have on for the first time, and just kind of recapping your own personal experience having been in government during this pandemic and throughout the response. I know it certainly hasn't been easy for a number of reasons, I'm sure, on yourself and your staff. So if you can just kind of lay out, what that's kind of been, I guess, from a personal level.
Well, from a personal level, it's been a challenge like everybody else. My wife lost her father. He was 92 years old. He got coronavirus. He died within 46 hours.
Sorry to hear that.
One son missed his had no graduation from college. Everybody went through these type of things. And one kid broke his ankle right before COVID, and then had to go through a whole rehab thing.
Oh boy!
Another operation, and then our daughter was a smart one. She graduated from college. She volunteered for a year on the island of Yap, Federated States of Micronesia, as a volunteer at a Jesuit high school. But then she's working for a firm in New York City that's a philanthropic advisors, and
wow,
she's been working remotely the whole time. And she and her friends would actually go, like they went out to the beach for 6 weeks. So they went down to Florida for 6 weeks. So they went out to Colorado for 6 weeks. And she got a promotion in the meanwhile, too. So I mean,
pretty good deal.
I mean, what I say is that the pandemic has been cruelly uneven. They call it the K recovery. Some people are going up, the up part of the K. You know, some people, they kept their jobs. They worked remotely. They had a 401k where their Wall Street portfolio went up. You know, the business they were in, if they were in retail or technology or like a service business, like a lawyer or accountant, they were fine. They were and some people, nobody got sick. Some people are completely unscathed. The bottom part of the K, people were wiped out. 25% of the people making $40,000 a year are still unemployed. If you're in the restaurant business or the catering business or the live entertainment business, the airline business, wiped out. And so it depends on where you sit in this whole thing. And you saw the inequities related to race, related to income, related to age. So it's just been very uneven. And even places in the country at different times were facing different things. I talked to my colleagues in Congress, and they're like, "Oh, what are they making such a big deal in New York? You guys are overreacting." I said, "Well, we had refrigerator trucks full of bodies at one point."
Exactly.
And we were afraid. When my father-in-law was sick, when the hospitals were getting overcrowded and stuff like, are they going to be able to get oxygen at the hospital like they're going through in India now?
Yeah.
So it's like, the people are still traumatized. I mean, we're coming out of it. Obviously, the governor just announced that things are opening up, but I've got people complaining to me all the time about, what do I have to wear my mask for? I'm vaccinated. And it's a very uneven experience for people. My staff's been working remotely. We're going to be coming back to the office. More of them, I should say, or all of them, going to be coming back in the middle of May. My staff's done a great job, though, with constituent affairs. I call some people's offices, and I get these voicemails, and it's like, my staff's been just great with responding to people, following up, helping people navigate the bureaucracy related to unemployment checks or stimulus checks or the child tax credit's going to be a big thing coming up. Definitely. And let me just say one last thing on a personal level. When I was growing up, my father was born in Italy. My parents, my father and my grandparents immigrated to the United States on the Italian side. My grandmother on the Irish and English side, she immigrated from Ireland.
Okay.
And they all lived through the Depression. My father fought in World War II.
Yeah.
My father was involved in politics. He was campaigned with Kennedy at one point. And I was always, when I was a kid, I was always thinking, wow, the immigration from another country, Depression, World War II, Kennedy, the Civil Rights Movement, the environmental. What is the big thing I'm going to face? Well, this is it. This is like, think of what we've been through between the pandemic and the pointing out the racial inequities that existed. We went through the whole protest last year and still trying to address that stuff. Climate change. Of course. This is serious business.
Yeah. Economic recovery.
So, of course we had 9/11 and things like that, obviously very major things. But I mean, this is a pretty serious time. So it's a great honor for me to actually be in this position during this very important time in history. Yeah,
that's we're glad that you laid it out that way. And a thing that Bill always likes to say, and we like to say, is that, in times of great crisis, you need cooler heads to prevail.
Cooler heads, yes.
We know that you're a part of, obviously, the Problem Solvers Caucus. And like you said, it certainly is not an easy challenge, in good times, to help a lot of the constituents who have these different issues. But especially now when there were such tangible needs, whether it's food insecurity or, like you said, economic issues of insecurity with unemployment. I'm sure, like you said, that your staffers certainly know that they've made a big impact for the folks that they have directly helped, and also along with your legislative profile, of course.
Well, we got a lot of big stuff done. I mean, this bill, first of all, the bipartisan problem solvers helped to negotiate that $900 billion deal at the end of last year when nobody was doing anything. That really got us through the winter.
Yep.
And then the Biden and the Democrats really it was the Democrats, did the big package, the American Rescue Plan. I mean, that lifted 50% of kids out of poverty. I mean, that's going to be like that saved a lot of lives.
Yeah, generational change. Definitely going to impact and have important reverberations, throughout the history of Long Island. We'd like to think for the better. So with that, we did want to segue to another issue that we know that you've been leading from the front on and have obviously been a big part of as a founding member, I believe, of the SALT Caucus, which is the issue of repealing the state and local tax cap, again known as SALT. So you've actually even been on record saying that in terms of the infrastructure deal, which is separate, obviously, then, like you said, from the American Rescue Plan, that you wouldn't vote for it. No SALT, no deal, more or less.
No SALT, no deal. That's it.
That's the chance. So can you just reiterate to our listeners why you believe that policy is so critical and non-negotiable, again, for your constituents?
Historically, since the beginning of the federal tax code, the first deduction people got was a state and local tax deduction, which means that if you pay taxes like your property taxes to your local governments, you pay income taxes to the state government. New York City, you got to pay an income tax to New York City, actually, too. You can deduct those taxes from your gross income before you pay taxes on your remaining income. So the idea is you shouldn't be taxed on the things you have to pay. It's not like you're going out to dinner or you're going on vacation and you're fixing the bathroom. This is you have to pay these taxes. You shouldn't be taxed on the taxes you've already paid. That's the basic concept of it. Well, so there's the state and local taxes, which your property taxes, your income taxes at the state level, were capped as to how much you could deduct at $10,000. Well, that just does not do the trick for us here on Long Island. That may be good for other places in the country, but in New York State, in New Jersey, Connecticut, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Michigan, California, some other, all blue states, they said we're going to cap it at $10,000 for everybody, but it really hurts us in our states. Because why? Because our taxes are higher. Well, why are our taxes higher? Well, we got unions, okay? Other states don't have unions. As a result, a lot of people have a very decent life because they have those unions, though.
Yep.
If you're in New York State, like every teacher is a member of a union. Every civil servant, every garbage worker. If you're an electrician, a plumber, a steam fitter, you're in the building trade unions. They get paid more money than that, and that costs us more. How much we pay in government? So we have in New York State the lowest rate of uninsured children. We have the lowest rate of uninsured adults. We have a mass transit system that has produced enormous wealth, but also gives New York City the lowest per capita carbon footprint of any city in the world. These things all cost more money now, and we get paid more than other places. So they say if you allow this deduction to happen, it's a benefit just for the rich people. Well, let me tell you something. If you're a nurse and your husband is a carpenter, you're making $150,000 in your house. You may be making $120,000, maybe making $180,000, somewhere in that range. In Long Island, that's actually middle class. Now, if you're making $150,000 in Oklahoma, you belong to the country club and you got a brand new house in a gated community with granite countertops.
Exactly.
If you got $150,000 in Iowa or North Dakota, you're a big shot.
Yeah.
But around here, you're paying your bills. You can keep your head above water. You're coaching your kids' little league team. You're volunteering as a firefighter, but you're not rich. These people have been crushed by this cap on state and local taxes. The other people say, well, why should our states subsidize the high taxes of New York and that they want to spend so much money? Well, first of all, New York State is the biggest net donor to the federal government. We send more money to the federal government in income taxes than we get back than any other state in America.
Yeah.
So in the past 5 years, we've sent $150 billion more to the federal government than we got back in services or contracts. Mitch McConnell's state of Kentucky, with 4 million people, took $150 billion more than they put in. So we're subsidizing their state and every other state in the country because we're the biggest net donor. So it's the height of hypocrisy. Yeah. So the bottom line is we all know people. You guys can tell me the stories. They retire, they get a pension, they're going to North Carolina. They're going to Myrtle Beach. They're going to Florida. We know people who picked up during the pandemic. They just moved out. And and I'm worried about the wealthy people moving out, because if the wealthy people move out, then we leave a hole in our revenues, and then who gets left holding the bag? The rest of us that are still here. So we're either going to see our taxes go up or we're going to see our services cut because those people that left have left a gap in our revenues. 60% of the revenues of New York State are paid by the top 5% of wage earners. We don't want you leaving. Okay, we wish you would share some of your money with us. We want to see our companies be more generous in sharing their prosperity with working people, but we don't want you. We don't want to chase you out of New York. We want you to stay in New York and help to pay for all the things that I talked about earlier: the insurance for children, the mass transit, the different things we think are good things in our society.
Exactly. Yeah. Though I know the discussion, I believe, about the Laffer curve and finding that kind of Goldilocks balance of finding a place where you don't disincentivize and force people to move out, but at the same time getting the revenue that's needed for these important services that obviously people do depend on and are pivotal. And
John, I'm impressed by that. The Laffer curve, very good.
It's definitely those economics courses did something for me, I guess. But either way, another point that you did raise, which is also important, maybe on that microeconomic, is that cost of living issue. Knowing, like you said, that this isn't Oklahoma, and if you have to put your kid through school in maybe not the public system, or even if you do, knowing how much it costs in your property taxes and other things, there are a lot of aspects that aren't, kind of equated the same way as if you were in a different state like West Virginia.
That's one of the big challenges in our country, John. I mean, I told you before about, I have to tell my colleagues, we had refrigerator trucks full of bodies. We had, people panicking like that. We have to also educate people about how different it is from places in the country on income levels.
Yeah.
It's just different wherever it's just different. And we have a high cost of living here. We have higher wages, but we have a high cost of living. If you tell somebody, I told a senator once, I had a woman call me up. She was a nurse. Her husband was a former supermarket worker. They had $160,000 a year in household income. She worked 50 or 60 hours a week. They had a $400,000 house with a $200,000 mortgage. They had $200,000 in student debt because they paid for all the kids to go to school and they took out the debt for the kids.
Yep.
She called me up. She's crying because her taxes went up. She said they're talking about how this is a tax cut. My taxes went up because of salt, and so because they capped the salt deduction. And so I brought her in to meet with me because I wanted to see. I brought in my personal accountant. I brought my chief of staff because I want to see maybe she's going out to dinner all the time, big credit card bills, vacations. She's got to be more. This woman was the most responsible person you'd want to meet. And she was very frugal. She hadn't fixed her bathroom for 2 years, even though it was leaking because she had this debt. So I tell the story to an Oklahoma senator, Republican.
Okay.
And he's like, $150,000 a year.
Right.
A $400,000 house. If you have a $400,000 house in my area, you that's one of the nicest houses you'll see anywhere. That's like a mansion on a big estate. So, and that $400,000 house in Huntington Station was, a modest house.
Yeah.
So it's just a lack of understanding. Things are different in different places in the country. It's just, I'm always trying to understand the other people.
Yep. Even in the city side, I know of the district, whether, you have a condo or a co-op or something like that, there's certainly a lot of cost.
It's different from downstate New York to upstate New York.
Oh, yeah.
True. Yeah, definitely. Yep. Buffalo, Western New York, and Central and everywhere, like I said, has their own kind of economic realities. And let's remind our listeners that they are listening to this week's Long Island News here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College, along with Bill McIntyre and myself, Jon Gallo, and thankfully joined here by Congressman Suozzi, again, who represents the 3rd District of New York. So
we have a lot of Gallows in Glen Cove, I want you to know. Glen Cove.
We are a numerous bunch by name. Certainly, I get enough of the comments about the do you own the wine company and other things of the sort. But unfortunately not. I do not get a dividend. But either way, we did, and thank you again, obviously, for discussing why you believe that's so important. SALT. But we did want to turn to some of the other issues, obviously, that, you have a role in being involved in the discussions and debates over. And one thing that was close, kind of maybe taking a step back to the American Rescue Plan and some of the programs, whether they be SBA or otherwise, I know that you've recently kind of been advocating for and talked about how important they were the shuttered venue operators grant program. I know Bill happens to be our resident musician and is in a popular band and has done touring internationally and does all the scene out here with Long Island and with his family, actually. Plug, been in the Foo Fighters video. But point was, we know it's been tough times, like you said, for a lot of businesses, but especially around these types of businesses that relied on kind of that close contact and intimacy in a sense. So can you talk about maybe that program and some other things that hopefully can help maybe constituents and everyone going forward?
Well, you think of like Broadway, okay? Broadway's just shut down.
Yeah.
And that's not just the producers and the actors. That's the stagehands. That's all the businesses that feed off of that, whether it's scenery or costumes or lighting or whatever. These people are wiped out, and that's their skill set. And where else are they going to go? Not everybody needs a stagehand. So it's a very, these people, and out on Long Island, we got the Northport Theater, John Engelman Theater. We've got the Tillis Center. We've got the what's it called? The stage or the place in Westbury. We've got the Paramount.
Huntington,
We've got the Landmark Theater over in Port Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We got all these facilities. These people are wiped out.
Yep.
And whether they're for profit or not for profit, they just don't have any money coming in. And the people that work for them don't have jobs. And like I said, they could maybe find a job somewhere else. But there's not a lot of jobs out there for those skills.
No.
So the challenge is, how are we? These people have lost their shirts through no fault of their own. This is all because of what happened because of the pandemic and government's decision, the right decision, to shut things down. So shuttered venues. And, we've done programs like that. We did programs for the restaurants, obviously. I put a very hard, catering halls. We take catering halls for granted out here on Long Island. That's not a common business in other places. They don't have these big parties, these big cavernous places like we do here on Long Island. But those guys got wiped out.
Yeah.
And, restaurants, listen, if you could do delivery, you could do outdoor dining, maybe you skated through a little bit. But not everybody could do that. So the different programs were set up to try and help these different businesses. And, there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of things to figure out with the PPP program and the restaurants and the shuttered venue. There's always exceptions. I had a guy call me the other day. There's some business that has a bunch of airport concessions.
Okay.
So all the airport concessions, you got a restaurant in an airport, you're out of business. Okay. Not only is it an airline business, but they're going to hit hard. But, we did a thing to help bail out the airlines because that would destroy the economy if we lost those businesses. And we did a restaurant thing, but for some reason, the SBA set up some guidelines that disqualified the restaurants in the airline terminals.
Wow.
So we're fighting to fix that. So there's a million things like that. So
and that's what comes, I guess, with time. Like you said, having to work out the kinks, for lack of a better term, and trying to make things, kind of maybe wherever someone might have fallen through the gaps be kind of rectified through policy. So that's important. And certainly, I know we can share out that information. And if you are a constituent of the 3rd District, you can certainly contact the Congressman's office for more information about any of those types of programs if you are interested and in need. I guess turning to some other issues that we know that you've been, directly involved with recently, Congressman Suozzi.
Well, people should, if they have a problem with their unemployment checks, even though it's a state issue, we try and help people navigate the bureaucracy. If they haven't gotten their $1,400 check yet, a lot of them are out, but there's still a lot of people that didn't get it. If you're in a small business, you want to get the PPP program, the EIDL program, shuttered venues, restaurants. We do a lot of issues not related to the pandemic, but like immigration issues, visa issues, passport issues, a lot of veterans issues to make sure benefits. They should just call my office, 631-923-4100, 631-923-4100.
Great.
My team's doing a great job. They'll help you out.
Yep. And even if you're not in the district, they'll probably put you in contact, whether it's a state elected official or whoever the appropriate member of Congress is for those resources, again, as well. So, Bill, we want to, again, I don't know if you wanted to pick up off of that issue, knowing how close it is to your heart, kind of getting both the art industry kind of back on track, or again, obviously, we were talking about before off air, the congressman's time down by the border. So I guess wherever you wanted to go, what you were thinking.
I really think that the thing with the restaurants and stuff like that, obviously we're always going to keep our eye on the number as far as the virus goes, because I think it's May 19th now is the target for we're going to open up. And I'm pretty sure, Congress can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if that number starts to spike, those rules can be rescinded.
That's right. Why, the message throughout this whole thing is like, some people are, like I said, are fine. You're a healthy young person, Hey, what do I got to do this stuff? Well, it's not just about you, it's about all of us.
Yeah.
And if the numbers spike and everybody gets scared again, that's the worst thing we could have. Everybody becomes so scared, like this is going to happen again. Mm-hmm. So, we went through that. It didn't get as bad as it could have, thank goodness. But we can't let it spike again.
I remember at one point, I think it was 700 people a day we were losing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was more than that at one point.
And they, the rest of the country forgets that. See, that's the thing that got me. New York we were the example.
We were the epicenter.
Right. But
before they figured out how to treat people. That's before they figured out what the right way to do, the right medicines, whether to do the ventilators or not. We were the guinea pigs.
Yeah. Exactly.
The reason it happened is because we're home to the airports, JFK and LaGuardia. A lot of international travel comes through here.
Of course.
This is the whole thing about that we weren't warned by the Chinese as to what was going on, Chinese Communist Party, that we weren't warned that this stuff was happening, and it caught up with us.
Yeah.
Those first couple of months were horrific for New York.
Yeah, it was like watching a science fiction movie. It really was.
Yeah. And knowing, again, that medical institutions like the Northwell system, which I know are in your district, and ones further west, like the New York City Health and Hospitals, in Elmhurst, and seeing, like you said, when that crush came, and just the fear and the surreal nature of us all trying to get through that dark time. And now, thankfully, when a little bit of hindsight, as we see the weather gets warmer and as we move into another summer, where we're more focused on, can we open the beaches fully, which seems to be, the case. And, I know members of the Long Island delegation, including Executive Curran, who we'll have on, is advocating for that. So it's nice to see where we've come, but, we can't forget where we were.
That image of people all in like big, long lines to get tested.
Yeah.
People were like coughing on each other, and it was raining out. I can't get that image out of my head. Because people were like so anxious to get in to get tested. And it's obvious they're infecting other people around them. They're coughing, and the rain is coming down. It's cold outside. It's awful.
Yeah.
That was an issue. The testing, and people were hesitant maybe to go because they were afraid they'd get infected. Now it's a different hesitancy issue that we are kind of trying to confront, obviously, with the vaccine. We've talked to
get the vaccine.
Yep, definitely. We can always reiterate that. Thankfully, Nassau Community College has been a big key factor on Long Island as a state-run site that's been offering, again, vaccine doses along with many other places. We certainly urge you, if you're not in the percentage of people who thankfully have, to definitely do it. I guess actually it's a county-run site, the Nassau one. But point being is, it's as easy as it's ever been, and it's available. So if you haven't, that's your PSA for today. Get the vaccine. Make us
get the vaccine.
Over this as fast as possible on the path to herd mentality, like Nassau Commissioner Larry Eisenstein had told us back then. This is that challenge part. When you get over the 50%, getting it to the 75%. So certainly, we encourage everyone to do that if you haven't. So,
and it should be easier now because you're not online at midnight on your computer trying to make an appointment.
Now it's easy.
You can walk in. So
exactly.
The excuse ability has just lowered quite a bit because now there's no computer involved. Just go and get the vaccine. Yeah. Congressman Suozzi, I happened to see your videos that you put up when you were in Congress on that day, January 6th, at the Capitol. I watching your face, you didn't look scared to me, but you were certainly, the hair on the back of your neck was standing up, and you were looking around, and I could tell that, there were some serious things going on just by your reaction. But you want to relate a little to us about, that day. And I'm personally very curious about some of the forces that in our federal leadership that, there's so many government, people that to me, it seems like they forgot their oath.
Oh yeah, that was an awful day in our history.
Very dark.
I was right in the middle of that whole thing. That was I don't know how much time we have, so I don't know how much I should tell you. But I mean, that morning I was planning on not going over to the Capitol at first. I was gonna. We told our staffs to stay home because we heard there were going to be a lot of protests and stuff. And I was at my apartment. And I wasn't paying attention. I'd been up late the night before. I'd come to Washington because our inauguration for swearing in was on January 3rd. And I was, out late, and I worked out that morning. I was gonna just work from the apartment, and I wasn't paying attention to my phone. And I looked at my phone at 1:00. They had texted me at 12:30 that I had to evacuate my building because there was a bomb nearby.
Crazy.
They said they had the bomb near the Republican headquarters. So I was like, oh my gosh, I better get out of here. My wife's going to kill me if I get blown up.
I'm sure she was nervous when she saw your video.
then I go running outside, and I forgot my mask. I had to go run back and get my mask. And I go outside, and the place is surrounded by police tape. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's like a block to where my office is. And I say to the police officer, the police everywhere. And it's like, I got to go to my office. Say, you can't go that way, sir. And I opened my jacket and show my congressional pin. I said, oh, I'm a member of Congress. I got to go over to my... She said, are you crazy? There's a bomb between here. You can't go over there. So I went out. I had to go the long way around, and I had to go through a lot of crowds. I was very worried about the crowds I was going to encounter. And, I was covering up my congressional pin, not too congressional. And I go back to I get to the far side of my office building. It's locked. I can't go in because they've evacuated the building because of the bomb nearby.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's cold. I had to go to the bathroom, evacuate. And I couldn't go to my office. I couldn't go to my... So I said, I'll go over to the Capitol because we're going to be doing the vote today on the certification. And I said, my wife had said that morning, please keep track of today. It's a day in history, important day in history. I was like, oh, come on. So I go over there, and I'm in the gallery, and, people in the galleries, it's like 50 or 100 people on the floor, and about 50 people up in the gallery. I'm up in the gallery. You're not supposed to be on the floor because unless you're participating in the vote, that particular aspect, it's because of social distancing. Okay. And all of a sudden, we start hearing people start getting tweets. The Capitol's been breached. Tear gas is being used in the Capitol. And people are like, what's going on? What's going on? People, and then they come up to the speaker's dais. One of the Capitol Police says, please go under your chairs, and there are gas masks under your chairs. Please take them out. The Capitol's been breached, and we have to be prepared. Be prepared to duck down, and if the chamber is breached, and they're closing all the doors, and then they whisk the speaker out. Before that, they whisk the speaker out, and the majority leader. Then they're going to try and start doing the program again. The proceedings. And then, they say, all right, everybody, you got to be prepared to evacuate. Then we start hearing banging on the doors.
Yeah.
And we get ready to start evacuating. I'm in the furthest point up in the top on the gallery, what's called the gallery, from the place where the evacuation is. I'm the furthest possible. So I was one of the last people to get out of the room. And all of a sudden, one of the guys who's a former Army Ranger, one of my colleagues, Jason Crow, he says, Suozzi, check that door over there. Make sure that door is, go check the door. I'm climbing over the chairs, holding onto the gas mask. And I hear pop, pop, pop. And I thought it was a gun, but it was somebody using a CO2-fired metal pole to break through the windows. When the president walks through and they say, ladies and gentlemen, the president, they were banging through the window, that glass of that door.
My God.
And pop, pop, pop. I thought it was guns.
Yeah, seemed like it.
Then I'm going around, climbing over the chairs and over railings and stuff and going around to the far side. And then I do hear a gunshot. And that woman was killed behind the chamber there. Right. And all the radios is like 30 police in the chamber and in the gallery, shots fired in the Capitol, everybody down. And I was videotaping. That's what Billy's talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I have a thing on the video. I say, for some reason, I feel remarkably calm, I said. But like you said, if you look at me, you see my eyes are very alert. They're looking around, they're very darting around, looking at what's going on. But I had this weird, calm feeling. And they say that's because the adrenaline's pumping through your body.
Makes sense.
So we couldn't get out because we didn't know if we went out. So everybody's out on the floor. 3/4 of the people are out of the gallery, but I'm with about another 20 people that were still stuck in the gallery. We don't know if it's safe to go out into the hallway because we hear people banging on the doors. We don't know who's outside.
Yeah.
And this is after the gunshot we heard. So now everybody's, very heightened sense of awareness. Mm. So we finally get outside, and there's about 10 or 15 guys all lying on the floor face down with their hands behind their back, and the cops have their guns trained on them. So it was pretty, it was right in the middle of the whole thing. So it was a pretty intense time. And then we went to this undisclosed location. I did some interviews and stuff, and I snuck out and I went back to the Capitol to see what was going on. and the places, like water and like, the tear gas powder and, things are broken and papers, and it was very upsetting. But I was very happy. I went to the rotunda, the paintings were not touched or anything like that. I was very happy about that. None of the historic artwork, but like the windows, you see the windows smashed and
the aftermath.
So my whole thing was, we got to get back. We got to get back here tonight. We have to vote tonight. We can't let them stop.
Right.
This was the certification of the election of the president of the United States of America.
Exactly.
So we have to get back here. So I try to hey, can I help you guys clean up? Should I do this? No. And then I realized I was interfering. So I just went back to where I was and went back to my office for a few hours. And then we went back and we voted that night, and, we got through the thing. But yeah, it's just, it was awful. That's listen, my wife was just talking about how she was on a plane and she watched the movie Argo.
Okay.
Argo is the movie about the Iranian hostages.
Yep.
She said, what happened in the beginning of that movie, when you see the protesters at the gates and they're like trying to knock the gates down, then they scale the wall. She said it was the exact same thing as what happened at our Capitol.
Yeah.
It was eerie, because it was not necessarily people coming with guns blazing, but it was people like, banging at the doors, breaking the windows, climbing over it was the exact same thing.
Yep.
So it's like, it's just a very dark period. I just think of how much less anxiety there is today than there was 6 months ago.
Yeah. That's something that can't be overstated. Is that something I imagine as a member of Congress that, they give you some form of, briefing that, this is never even a faint, perception of that. That's crazy. Yeah.
I don't think I even knew that those gas masks were under there. I don't remember being told that ahead of time.
My God. Yeah. Those Reuters and Getty's images were just,
well, I think that nobody ever would have thought you would actually need it.
Yeah. Well,
and for that
hopefully
to be
never again. Yeah.
Hopefully never again. Well, listen, we got a lot to listen. People are too divided in our country. We got to bring them back together. There are a lot of forces that are pulling us apart. People in safe seats. Most congressional seats are safe. I'm not safe. My district could go either way. It's called D+1. But of the 435 seats, 380 of them are safe seats because they're gerrymandered. 190 Republican, 190 Democratic. Not the exact, but that's a rough idea to make it.
Right.
They're gerrymandered. You pack all the Republicans over there. You pack all the Democrats over there. The Republican will win the Republican seat. The Democrat will win the Democrat seat. This is the way it is. And so, Congress has a 15% approval rating, but 90% get reelected. Why? How's that possible? Well, it's because they're safe seats. The only way these people can lose is by losing a primary. Very few people vote in the primaries, and they're often the most extreme, far right for the Republicans, far left for the Democrats. So what happens? The people in these safe seats pander to their base. The Republicans pander to the Republican base, Democrats pander to the Democratic base, and it pulls us apart. If you do something in the middle, it's like, what are you talking to those guys for? And you're worried about losing the primary. Then you put on top of that social media. Who are the people most active on social media? It's usually people with the most extreme positions.
Yep.
Then you put on top of that cable news networks, okay? Fox News on one side, MSNBC, more extreme views. There's only 3 or 4 million people watch those shows, but they're not based on like journalism like when I was growing up with the networks. It's based on selling advertising and getting people to watch and keeping them titillated. So then the worst of all, on top of that, are foreign adversaries, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. They're using social media. They're using every weapon they have at their disposal to sow civil unrest in our country. They'll take a legitimate debate of, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter type of thing, and they'll take the most extreme positions and they'll promote them so that everybody think, oh, everybody's so mad at each other. They all hate each other. Yeah. They'll put the evangelicals versus the secular people. Whatever they can do to get people pissed at each other, they try to foment that. And people are looking at what's happened in my country. Most people are normal people. They're like, can't you just work it out? Can't you just, help us to solve the problem?
Exactly.
So that's why Biden is actually a very calming, he's a very calming force. He's not, not like, it's not like you're dying to see what he's going to say because he's not going to, he's not going to say anything crazy.
Right.
So it's boring. But it's in a good way. It's boring.
Yeah. I can sleep at night now. Yes.
I think we could all use a little bit of boredom with the craziness of the last year and a half.
And I don't wake up in the morning wondering what craziness has dropped during the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to get back to the basics, okay? I tell people, we take thou shalt not lie for granted, okay? There's too much lying going on.
So much.
Yeah.
You can't have the president lying.
No.
We take this just treating people with civil. You can disagree with each other without holding each other in contempt. You want to destroy them.
Yeah.
So we got to get people to try and, work together, find common ground, and solve the very complicated problems we face. You can't solve a complicated problem in an environment of fear and anger and everybody yelling at each other.
Well, that's why our battle cry here has always been cooler heads need to prevail.
That's right.
And I think that's it. That's really the Congressman, I'm going to ask you to promise us that you'll come back because we have a lot more to talk about. Again, we could have a nice 2 or 3 hour conversation about all the things. I'm sure John's head is, he's thinking of new ideas and as we go, but we are on a time restraint. So,
all right, well, invite me back sometime, guys. Hang out with you.
Most definitely.
I'm going to hold you to that. Yeah.
No, we look forward to it. And again, thanks to you and to all your staff. And obviously, just keep up the good work. And we look forward to checking in. And certainly, we'll share out the information that Congressman Suozzi again referenced. And definitely a lot of important things are always happening. I know there was information about the census that just got finalized.
Yeah.
And, I know New York is going to maybe lose one seat. And hopefully, it doesn't seem like it'll impact Long Island delegation. But there's certainly many topics, that are always going to be here. And certainly, it's good to have, like you said, people who are trying to solve the problems and act as those cooler heads. So thank you again so much for your time.
We'll be glad to talk to you
John,
soon.
thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Be well.
Everybody at Nassau Community College.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll
Take
talk
care
to you
again.
soon.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Boy, good show. We got to talk to some real good newsmakers, Laura Curran and Tom Suozzi.
Yep, we're
Never know what can happen in the future, huh?
No, we're pulling, I think, above our weight class now. So it's a good thing to see. Like I said, that we got those, most recent up to date pieces of information from the county executive, and obviously to hear Congressman Suozzi's thoughts on a number of important issues that impact Long Island are certainly invaluable as well. So great show, Bill, and look forward to many more with many more guests.
And the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News to move on out of here. We thank you for joining us and remind you can catch this week's Long Island News every Friday at 3 o'clock right here on the station that helps you communicate, 90.3 WHPC.